first thing on the list is about the KetonX drink in general, and why is it both unique and beneficial. The KetonX drink is really the only way that you can get a packaged product that's convenient and portable that will deliver ketone bodies to you very affordable and very easy. It is really the only way to introduce these ketone bodies into the body without having to put the body through a regimented ketogenic diet that would be required to get these ketones. So basically, what are exogenous ketones? They are exogenous man-made versions of the ketones that we actually produce in the body, which are beta-hydroxybutyrate, acetoacetate, and acetone. So in this particular KetonX drink, we are using beta-hydroxybutyrate exclusively. It is the easiest transportable of the ketone bodies that we produce. So it's stable in blood, it's stable in the gut, stable in plasma, and it's a very powerful delivery mechanism of ketone bodies to peripheral tissue. The other ketone bodies that are produced endogenously or by the liver are not stable in the body, and they actually decarboxylate and disappear quite rapidly. So beta-hydroxybutyrate is the preferential ketone, and that's what we have decided that we were going to go for in the KetonX drink. How do ketones work? Really simplistically, ketones are a very special modified short-chain fatty acid. And we don't get short-chain fatty acids readily in foods. We get them a little bit in butter and some other things, but definitely not in any quantities. And what happens when we go into a dietary state where we reduce carbohydrates, the body has to produce a suitable fuel to replace the glucose with, and it has to be a suitable fuel that's easily oxidized in the brain. The fats that we mobilize from long-chain fatty acids, which are what we mobilize from stored body fat, do not readily cross into the brain to fuel the brain. They have to be short-chain fatty acids. And so what the liver does when we start dieting is it produces these ketone bodies as it's using long-chain fatty acids for other tissues in the body. So it's not a fight or flight type response, but it is a definite response to energy restriction in times of famine or in times of diet to make sure that the brain gets a powerful, suitable fuel that's going to replace the glucose that you're taking away from it when you're on a restricted carbohydrate diet. So ketone bodies are also, because of the nature of how they're designed and the environment that they're utilized in, they're also very tissue protective. So now that you're utilizing fat for energy, you have less oxidation, you have less reactive oxygen species, you have less inflammation in the cells, a much cleaner burning fuel than glucose is. So if you can imagine, if the brain is utilizing these for energy source now, you're not going to have the emissions and the detrimental waste products from a fuel such as glucose in the brain. And this is what we're pretty positive is the root cause of most of the cognitive and neurological degenerative diseases, is the fact that the brain has been burning glucose as a fuel for so long, and it's never had a chance to burn a clean fuel like ketone bodies, simply because of our westernized diet. It's so comprehensive in carbohydrates that we never really get a chance to go into ketosis. So the beauty of the drink in general is it allows you to get all the benefits of ketone bodies that would be normally produced on a strict diet without actually having to go through the buy-in and the regimen of being on that diet. So simply, what is ketosis? Ketosis is a state of having ketone bodies available for fuel in the body. That's what ketosis is. And I'll just briefly give you a couple of buzzwords. So ketogenesis is actually the process where the liver would produce ketones. The KetonX drink doesn't do ketogenesis because it's already made. It's in the drink. So you have ketosis where it's in the body. You have ketogenesis where ketones are produced. And you have a word called ketolysis where ketone bodies are actually being utilized by tissue. So it's manufacturing, transport, utilization. Those three things. You might want to write those down and or look them up. Ketones and athletic performance or any kind of performance. So being a fat, a ketone body requires less oxygen per unit of energy than carbohydrate. So benefits for athletes most definitely distance and endurance type athletes, where they will actually consume less oxygen to produce the same amount of energy as you would burning a glucose or a carbohydrate source. So that's a definite performance benefit. I know personally when I go to the gym and I train that I don't get winded nearly as much as I do on a glucose diet as I do taking the ketone product. So that would be the number one performance benefit for athletes. And then we briefly covered cognitive benefits. And again, the biggest cognitive benefit to ketone bodies is their ability to produce a substantial amount of energy without producing the detrimental waste products that glucose have. And this is going to be, I believe personally, a game changer in the ability to reverse and prevent cognitive decline in neurological tissue and cancer. Lastly, not least, if you want to throw cancer in there, same thing. Cancer cells love to burn glucose. They can't stand to burn ketone bodies. So we have very interesting data and test subjects that we're working with right now in anti-cancer therapy utilizing ketone bodies. Very, very promising, and we have some data that simply could never be replicated with traditional medical therapies, including chemotherapy. So this is a very, very powerful tool. It's a very powerful addition to a diet that you may already be on, but as a standalone product, it's unsurpassed, and we've really never seen anything like this in the health and wellness arena for decades. This is truly a revolutionary product and a very substantial way of delivering a very powerful tool.
Ed, thank you so much. Sorry there, I just stalled for a second because I was still writing down key things that you said. Just absolutely fascinating, just the science alone on exogenous ketones and the ability to get those into our blood and tissue from the KetonX drink, of which you formulated. If I could add, one question that comes up on occasion is simply this. You know, we hear from people that will say, hey, I'm very excited for Ketopia, for the 10-day reset pack, but I really don't have any weight to lose. How can I benefit from these products? And I don't know, Ed, if you could take a second and just touch on that. You basically did in reference to performance, etc. But if you were posed with that question, just in terms of someone suggesting they don't need to lose weight, why should I take these products? What are the benefits that you could share with someone posing that question?
Sure. Well, the biggest benefits are you're providing a fuel source to cells, all cells of the body, well, all cells that have mitochondria, that is supposed to be there in nature and has always been there, but just because of the recent changes in westernized diet in the last 100 years, you're not getting those substrates. You're not getting into a ketogenic state where the cells are able to burn a different type of fuel, a cleaner type of fuel. So a real simplistic way of putting this is how this would benefit you if you're not into a weight loss type program, is that our cells were designed to be a dual fuel source, so a flexible fuel. Our cells have become metabolically inflexible because of the tremendous amount of carbohydrate and glucose that we utilize for energy in the cells. We're not getting that on-off type of environment that we're actually naturally supposed to get. So if you just think about it as a hybrid car, we really want to be running on the gas engine sometimes, and we know the gas engine produces a lot of emissions. It produces waste, it produces smoke, it produces toxins, and the battery is a very clean version of that energy production. So we want to switch back and forth between the battery and the gas engine. Unfortunately, in the cells, in the last 150 years, we're not doing that because of so much carbohydrate consumption that we've literally polluted the environment that's in our cells' powerhouses, the mitochondria. So being able to go back to utilizing a more efficient, a cleaner burning fuel is going to really go a long way to help any condition that would be remotely associated with metabolic disease or anything that touches the metabolic syndrome. So and cells in general. So you're going to get relief from all of these things, all of the things such as the cancer implications and cognitive decline implications, energy levels. You're going to clean out reactive oxygen species. You're going to reduce systemic inflammation. You're going to reduce cardiac inflammation. There's a tremendous amount of, there's probably more benefits on that side of the ketones than there are actually on as a amelioration of on a weight loss program. So I would encourage, if you really want to get into the science at some point and look into the science, you would be very hard pressed to convince an individual that they shouldn't be taking one of these drinks every morning regardless. This is an excellent way to go into preservation of tissue and kind of do a reset, on a biological reset on the power substrate that these cells were supposed to burn in the first place.
Ed, thank you so much. That is such a good answer to that question. Folks, remember, you will get a highlighted version of this call. You will also get the recording of this call. Take time out of your busy schedule. Listen to what Roger and Lori said. Listen to what Diane said. And especially listen to what the resident expert, dear friend of the company, Mr. Ed Porter, just shared. Ed, that was so on point. I have now taken a page and a half notes. I'm fascinated by this science. So grateful for you and your efforts here on the Ketopia side, and thank you so much for formulating this amazing drink called KetonX, and thanks for being on our call.